On the morning of June 10th, I had a very interesting dream. Now, there's a lot of details in this dream, and because I did a lot of research, and so pay attention to all the details that line up with each other. Dreams are fascinating. I love having dreams, and they can be from God. God speaks to us through dreams, but they leave us so easily. So we have to pay attention because they're also very puzzling. So I've developed somewhat of a technique of remembering some details. And so when I have a dream, what I'll do is when I wake up, I don't go to the bathroom when I wake up. I don't start thinking about my day. I lay quietly and I begin to rehearse as many details as possible from the dream that I can remember. And I rehearse them in my head over and over again because of how quickly details leave us, how dreams leave us. And then I'll get up and I'll write down the details of the dream. It's important to write down your dreams. And the dream I had was about a boat. I saw a boat sinking. It was in this position, sinking, and its name, it was called Bluebell. That was the name of the boat, Bluebell, spelled just like that. And so I was intrigued and did some research online to see what else I can find. And sure enough, there is another boat. This is a big cargo boat. It's a Korean cargo boat. Remember that detail, Korean, that actually exists right now. And an interesting detail about this is that it is currently parked right off the coast of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Now, I'm from America, but I am currently in Kuala Lumpur with my wife. And so it's just another amazing detail about this. And so I'm very intrigued, and so I did more research to see what else I can find about Bluebell. And sure enough, there was another boat in history called Bluebell, but spelled differently. There's an E at the end of the two L's. It's a smaller 60-foot like yacht type boat, and it was owned by this man, Julian Harvey. What's interesting about this is that Julian Harvey was a Korean War veteran, and he had this boat, and he chartered it out to people. He took this boat from Florida to the Bahamas, and with his wife Mary, and they chartered it out to a family of five, a doctor and his wife and three children, and they went through the Caribbean. And while they were out in the Caribbean, Julian murdered his wife Mary, and four of the family members that had chartered the boat, four of the five family members, they witnessed it. They saw it. So Julian killed four of them. He killed the doctor and his wife and two of their children. And then he began to scuttle his own boat. He wanted to destroy his boat and get rid of the evidence. And so he had a dinghy prepared that he was going to escape on. And he didn't realize, he must have forgot that there was a third daughter down below deck. She came up, she woke up, came up and saw her family dead in a pool of blood. And she got really nervous, obviously, really scared. And then he ordered her back down below deck, I guess, like assuming that she would go down with the boat. And he actually tried to kill her first. He lunged at her with a knife and failed, and she got away. And then he took off on his dinghy. And then the boat must have taken some time to sink. And so she was down below deck, and she eventually found another little dinghy for herself, and she escaped on it. And this is a picture of her. This is a famous picture. She's only 11 years old, and she was lost at sea for 4 days, almost dead. She was rescued after 4 days, and she almost died. And she's lived her whole life with this horrific story. She told her story, actually. And this Julian Harvey, he did not know. He was rescued 2 days earlier, but didn't know that she survived. And when he found out, he checked into a motel under an assumed name and committed suicide. He sliced his wrists because I guess he realized the jig was up. And so she's had to live with this horrific thing that happened to her and her whole family. And it happened on November 12th of 1961. That's when this man, Julian, had murdered the five people, including his wife. And so I did research to see what else eerie happened on November 12th. And sure enough, on November 12th in the 80s, these four nations did nuclear tests. Now, what are the odds of that? This is obviously something that was planned. What is the deal with November 12th? And they're all on different years, you can see, through the 80s. It sounds like something the Illuminati would do. And so I'll be keeping an eye on November 12th. Some more details about this dream. The night before the dream, I had this bottle of Harvey's Bristol Cream. Notice the name Harvey, and that the bottle's blue. And I bought it for communion, for my wife and I to do communion, but I didn't like the taste of it, so I poured it down the drain. And so wine is symbolic of like Jesus' blood. So I poured it down the drain and got rid of it. And so that's just an interesting detail. And also, the morning of the dream, we were walking through the streets of Kuala Lumpur, and I see this young man walking towards us. And what's interesting about him is that he's wearing a T-shirt, and the T-shirt says University of Wisconsin. We stopped him and we were talking to him for a while, and he is indeed from Wisconsin. And what's interesting about that detail is that the family that Julian Harvey murdered, they were from Wisconsin. And so, amazing details. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the Korean cargo vessel called Bluebell, especially come November 12th to see. And I'll be praying also to make sure nothing sinister happens to that boat.